Hey, everybody, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. What the heck is going on? How did this thing become so popular? I am talking to people from 7 in the morning till 7 at night sometimes, and I don't even have a chance to go to the bathroom sometimes. So it's like crazy how filled up my schedule is. But I am loving this because what's happening is, well, let's see what happens. But if you listen to some episodes, there's something that happens when people feel that they have the space to actually say what they believe without somebody jumping down their throat, without somebody already thinking of what they're going to say to argue it, but with just somebody listening to them and honoring them for having what they believe, not trying to change their point of view.
Mhm.
There's something so exquisite that's happening in this room. It's like magic that's going on.
Mhm.
Something special happens, and it happens often. So, no pressure on you, Mallory Rothstein. We don't have to have any of that happen, but I just want to welcome you into this room. I want to thank you for showing up here. I want to thank you for trusting your hour to an imperfect stranger like myself and to sitting together with me and having this conversation. How the heck are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm very excited for this, and just thank you for starting this kind of like series um, and me being a part of it.
I love having you a part of it. I can't imagine it without you being a part of it. So there we
Yes.
go. Okay. Because I don't know who you are, and maybe people here know who you are. I don't know. Sometimes I'm talking to people that the whole world knows, and I have no idea who they are. Would you just take a few moments and tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you, and what's important to you?
Yes. So I'm Mallory, but I also often am called Mal, but I have no preference. I usually confuse people. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I'm based in the Bay Area. I usually tell people I'm probably one of the most authentic, vulnerable, and passionate people you will ever meet in your life.
Wow.
Um, and I've been telling people a lot lately that I'm kind of a combo where I see myself as Oprah, Kanye West, and Michael Jordan in some of the ways I move and some of the ways I feel sometimes. And I care a lot. People know I care a lot about self-awareness and personal development, professional development, especially helping high school students and executive assistants, which is kind of a interesting combo. And I guess something else about myself is I struggle a lot sometimes with my mental health, but because of different trauma that I went through. But I usually try to turn a lot of that pain into purpose, and I try to use the reason why I'm sharing this, and the reason why I share it a lot is because I find that when you are open about certain things, you can really help other people on their journey, and a lot of times prevent them from struggling with maybe the same things that you have. So a lot of times when I have a platform where I speak with people, I speak about a lot of really intense things I went through. Like I said, I like to be very vulnerable, but I do it with the hopes that people feel less alone and people feel like, wow, maybe I can learn something from things that she's went through. And I love having conversations, which is why I love what you've started. People know with me that if you're on the phone with me, there's no such thing as really small talk. I don't like that. So I'm someone that you want to be on the phone with me, you're going to be on for at least 30 to 60 minutes and we're going to have a real conversation. So,
Beautiful. So I'm not going to try and get off early, okay? I'm just no. Somehow I have this little wheeze. I'm so sorry.
no problem.
Um, in a world where people look at vulnerability and are scared of it, where have you gotten the courage to be vulnerable like you are? And not only to have the courage to be it, but to speak of it in the first sentences of what you say.
Yeah, I think I say a lot of who I am stems from things that happened in childhood, which is what I think a lot of people maybe they don't want to admit, but so much of who you are as an adult stems from things that you went through in childhood. And in middle school, I started getting bullied. I had a rumor start. I lost a lot of my friends, and I didn't have people who were very vulnerable with me. I didn't have a lot of people that were in my life. Like I used to watch Oprah a lot, and I always say that I got out of a really dark place in my life in high school because I watched a ton of Oprah. But I had wished that there was an Oprah or people around me that were super vulnerable. It's not to say I had bad mentors, I had good people, but people weren't talking about things that were uncomfortable to talk about. And what I've seen in my life is that when I have conversations with people and I'm vulnerable first, people are vulnerable back. And I've heard so many times over the course of I know I call myself still young at 27, but out of my 27 years, I've heard the phrase, like, you're the first person I've told this to, or you're the only person that knows this about me, so many times. And I feel like when I hear that from people, I'm a little bit sad, because I wish I wasn't the first person. I wish that they had other people, but I feel very honored. And like it just stems from like what I wish I had in my childhood, what I wish that what I think could have helped me. And so I try to be that for other people and what I think that they need in their life at that time. So I always say, I don't like having to have these sometimes very vulnerable conversations a lot. There's sometimes I tell people I reschedule meetings sometimes, because just like you're doing conversations all day, I do that a lot too. And then sometimes I burn myself out. But I think it's still important. So I just make it, I don't know, some part of my life's mission to kind of be vulnerable and set that example. Because so many people want other people to be vulnerable, but don't set the example themselves. So I kind of try to say, if I expect things of other people, I have to do it myself.
I love that. And there's something in it that sits with me a little odd. Okay, let me go where I first was going to thinking, because it's the first there's so I have this little guy in my head that speaks to me, and there's so many things that I want to unpack in what you already said.
Mm-hmm.
Because but let's go where the first one was and see if we can just ride that. There are so many people out in the world, and I bet some of them are listening right now, who would have had whatever your upbringing was, whatever that was. I don't know what it was. I have no idea who you are. I'm just believing that you had some sort of upbringing where people weren't vulnerable, you got bullied, people weren't real with you, and they've closed down as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
To those people who have closed down because of the pain of what happened, what happens is we try and go out in the world, we try and be open, we try and be enthusiastic, we go into the world, we get, like Mike Tyson said, you can believe anything you want until you get punched in the face for the first time, right? And when they get punched in the face for the first time, who they are really comes out. Some people move towards being a representative of everything they didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
like you have, and some people move towards just shutting down
Mm-hmm.
and saying, I don't want to get hit again.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what gave you the courage to not shut down, or did you shut down for a while?
I will say in high school, I wasn't as open. I was more, I had some friends, but it wasn't until maybe my senior year that I started really opening up to people. But in college, I had said to myself, you're starting over. I went to a school where I didn't know anyone at, and I was like, I want to change my life. I don't want to be known as someone that was a certain way in high school. And I like one of the things I was really scared of public speaking. So one of the things I challenged myself is I had to say yes to every public speaking opportunity that I was given. And so for me, like forgetting what I was going to say before, what gave me the courage. So um, I honestly don't know 100% why I have stayed open. I always say my greatest accomplishment is in life is never any actual accomplishment that I achieve, but the person who I've been and continue to become better. And how I just keep going. Like that's really my accomplishment. Like I've always said, I thought I would not make it to this age just because I have struggled so much, struggled with suicidal urges, with a bunch of different trauma, but I don't know. I just keep going. I think a lot of it is having a faith that I have. I'm Christian. I believe that there is a higher power, that there's God. And I think that has really given me a lot of strength to keep going. I think I also have seen on the flip side what happens when you shut down. And I have definitely been around people who have shut down. And I've tried to help these people open up again and ask them. And I've had people say to me, you're really lucky that you still choose to feel and that you still choose to be open, because even though I don't get maybe hurt all the time, I'm hurting by just not even allowing myself the possibility to feel or to get hurt. Like I'm still in this show. I think I've got told that enough by people that I'm like, I just don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
And it has hurt me a lot. I've definitely, people will say sometimes to me, "Oh my gosh, you have drama, or you have a falling out here, or how come you keep on going through different trauma?" And I say, when you put yourself out there a lot, the chances of you going through things is just greater. You know, you have more friends, you have more opportunities to disagree, just like more money, more problems. And so I've told myself that if I'm going to live a certain lifestyle, I have to accept what's going to come with it. And so I think it's just having that acceptance and that kind of inner peace. At the end of the day, as long as I'm a good person, I have good intentions, and I'm doing my best, the pain that comes with it will be worth it. And honestly, all the pain that I've ever been through in my life, I have found a way to help someone else who's going through their own experience either not experience it to the extent that maybe I did, or help them learn a lesson, or help them just not feel alone in certain ways that maybe I did because I didn't have those people in my life. So all of that just makes me keep going.
So this is going to sound like an odd question,
That's okay.
but if you didn't have somebody to help you get through it and you got through it, why do you feel you have to help other people get through it rather than tell them they have the strength to get through it without anybody helping them, just like you did? When they look at the example of your life is an example of somehow, no matter how many times you got hit, no matter how many times you wanted to give up, no matter how many times you wanted to say, I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to end my life tonight. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to go through whatever I'm going to go through. You didn't. No one was there for you. And I understand that you want to be that person that's there for people that no one was there for you. But some of the beauty of your life is the fact that you found the strength within yourself that nobody showed you. You found it, or did somebody show it? Did you join the church? Like what I want to really do is dive into that year of your senior year of high school, because
Okay.
I can understand you went to college and you became a new person and you didn't try and carry the baggage, even though you probably carried the baggage with you, because who you are travels with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
All right, but in the move from 11th grade to 12th grade, you couldn't become a new person. You were the person you were, and you could do things differently. What happened in that moment that you shifted?
I would say, man, a lot of things. I think that for me, like I said, I watched Oprah a lot. My freshman, I mean, I watched it through the show ending ironically, my senior year. But my freshman and sophomore year was me kind of like, going through the trenches of being bullied. Bullying kind of stops, like the main stuff, my sophomore year. Had kind of my junior year to start kind of like opening myself up maybe a little bit, testing the waters. My senior year, my braces got taken off, right before. I felt a little bit better about myself. My body was better, was stronger, and I just knew people better. And I think I just said to myself, you have to start somewhere. You have to be vulnerable. I met my actual best friend in my life now, my senior year. And she was the first person I really opened up to. And it's funny because she was very closed off. And we have a whole story with our friendship that definitely one day where I always tell her, I'm like, we have to do a podcast episode because our friendship story is so beautiful and how we went through trials and tribulations. But so much of me opening up stems from that friendship. And we would drive around for hours after school. I mean, literally like 4 or 5 hours a day and just talk. And I think with her, because I hadn't have to look at someone in the eye, like I was driving, we're having these conversations, talk about where do we want to be when we're, 25, 30, 40, how are you feeling? I think that just having that one person really started to allow me again to open up to people. Um,
Tell me if this is true or not, because I hear different things than people say, because
okay.
I hear the space between the words and what people are saying, and so I get it. But it sounds like you didn't have somebody who was a mentor to you or a teacher or someone in a vertical relationship. You had a friend. And
I def-
somehow, I'm
I,
sorry.
I definitely spoke to teachers, but I don't think I think that I had people in my life that were speaking with me, but I don't think they were giving me at it 100% what I needed. I will say out of anyone in my life, my teachers were definitely huge parts
Yeah.
because I would stay after school and speak with them or come in early. But I don't know if I was ever like, super vulnerable with all of them first. Um,
So the place that I'm trying to get at, because it's this weird thing that's hankering away at me, and I'm not trying to make you into anything. I'm just asking. I'm just like I love watching the example of people's life.
mhm,
The- Even though you had all these people you spoke to, your friend who was a horizontal relationship. You were just friends. You spoke to each other.
mhm,
She told you about her life. You told her about your life, and somehow in that openness of being friends with each other, you so, in the work that you're doing now with people where you are talking to them,
mhm.
are you becoming friends with them or are you vertical with them? Are you helping them, fixing them, changing them, or are you becoming friends like your friend was with you?
With you mean just like with anyone kind of random in my
With
life?
all these people you're talking to on the phone, with
Um,
all the people that are coming to you for, that you're helping. Like you said, certain things that are key words for me because let me try and preface it even more so you feel where I'm coming from. It doesn't mean I think we live in a world where we live in a vertical reality where people help people, people fix people, people change people, people transform people, people guide people. The church tells us that what to do, the government tells us what to do, our teachers tell us what to do, our gurus tell us what to do. There's a lot of things. But what I'm finding is what people want is a horizontal reality. Like the mosaic is a horizontal reality. Broken pieces come together. And in just the idea of like what we're doing right here, I'm not trying to teach you. I'm just sharing, like you and I are just opening up and sharing to each other, right?
yeah, yeah.
And there's something in the space of opening up and sharing what we believe with each other. Like you have every right to believe whatever you want to believe. I'm not trying to change your point of view. I'm trying to understand it. But in that coalescence of two people of horizontal value coming together, which is what happened for you with your friend, from what I'm hearing.
Yes. So you're hitting on something that I actually like definitely believe. So something when I work with high school students a lot, and I went back to my high school a few years ago, and I say when I speak to high school students, I'm treating you like you're an adult. I don't speak to you in a cute voice. I'm not going to have cute graphics that I think. I'm speaking to you as if you are, like you said, right next to me, and I'm having a conversation with you as if you are an adult. And I find that high school students respond so much more when you treat them with the respect as if you are an equal. My kind of like day job is I'm an executive assistant, and I tell the executives, you have to view me as if I am the executive part of my title. Like I'm there with you. You might be getting paid more, you might have a fancier title, but you need to see me and treat me as if I am an equal. And so I 100% believe that. That's why I did an interview once and I talked about how networking. I hate the term networking. I don't like anything transactional. Anytime that someone's trying to sell me something, I always say, I don't, if you want to sell me something on the first phone call, I'm not the right person. And if you try to force me into that, I'm going to say no. Because I like long-term relationships. I like to see consistency. I like to see people as, again, as like a colleague or a friend. When I traveled a lot, in my first kind of assistant role, and I met all these high up people all over the place. I worked for a CEO, and I treated everyone as if, again, they were me. Like I didn't treat anyone differently. And it
Yeah.
was funny because the CEO would do a presentation and he would ask everyone like, how did he do? And everyone would be like, oh my gosh, you know, he's so great, he's so great. And then he would come to me and I'd be like, well, Stan, like, you know, you did great here, but you didn't do great at the end, or it was too long, or it was, I was bored. And he was like, this is why I like working with Mallory, because she tells me the truth and she sees me as an equal. She doesn't
Yeah.
see me as this big CEO or anything. But I agree with you. I think that people like to um, be seen on the same equal. What I'll say is, I definitely have boundary issues. My best friend tells me this. Everyone tells me this.
You
Like,
have boundary issues? Is that what you said?
yeah, in the sense of, I see a lot of people as friends. I see a lot of people as, why can't we just live in this, like, you know, world with rainbows and butterflies, and people can trust each other, and I can let people totally into my life and they can let me totally into theirs. And I've gotten hurt in a lot of ways. And people always have said to me, you know, you can be super open now, but you have to really be careful with who you're opening up to. And so I've really kind of struggled in the last couple months, actually trying to figure out, where am I going to have stronger boundary lines with, maybe not becoming friends with, not feeling like I have to become friends with everyone, feeling like I have to be everyone's, you know, helping them with their life. That if someone is hurting me, I can say, hey, this is a boundary line and I want to be there for you. I wish you well. I like, we don't have to have bad blood, but we can't be in each other's life anymore. And that has been definitely a journey for me to try to figure out kind of those boundary lines, those, how do I open up, but maybe filter out some people. So that's been definitely part of my journey.
Can I share a story with you?
Yes, go for it.
I've had the opportunity in my life to call as my friends some of the richest people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I've sat in their dining room tables and in their living rooms. I've played with their kids and met their parents. They've been kind enough to share counsel with me and often overwhelmed me by asking for my counsel on things as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky enough to do that with some of the top religious leaders and spiritual people and self help people and inspiration people. And I've had the opportunity to sit with them in the same situations, to meet their kids, to meet their families, to see what's going on between them and their wives or husbands. And I've had that same opportunity with some of the poorest people that the world's ever known. I've sat on their cardboard boxes and they've introduced me or spoken to me of their family. They've been kind enough to give me counsel and sometimes kind enough to ask for counsel. And what I've seen in every single case is people want to be loved and respected,
Mm-hmm.
understood and heard, and acknowledged and validated.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the people that I've learned from, and I've learned tons of lessons from a lot of people, the person that I've learned the most from has been my daughter. And my daughter is a 30-year-old girl right now who is developmentally delayed.
Mm-hmm.
So when she speaks, people don't understand her. But she counts on me to understand her. We're so close, and most of the time I do sort of get most of what she's saying. But Mallory, sometimes I don't. And when I don't, what she'll do is she'll start to say it louder. But it isn't normally the volume. This is the reason why, even though I'm getting older and my ears are getting less good, it isn't normally the volume that makes me not understand her. It's normally the lack of clarity. And so when she speaks and I don't understand her and she's speaking louder, then what she'll do is she'll throw a tantrum. And that tantrum can be in the middle of a restaurant. It can be at a friend's house. It can be while we're walking on the street downtown. It could be while we're driving in a car. It could be anywhere. And when the tantrum isn't effective, then she'll come and attack me. She'll try and grab my shirt and rip it, or she'll try and bite me, or she'll do something. And I tested pretty high in school in IQ.
Mm-hmm.
People said, yeah, I had a genius IQ, but it didn't do me one bit of good in this situation because I couldn't figure out anything. And it went on like this for about 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand what to do. And finally, I said to her in the midst of my despair, in the midst of my place, I said, Elisa, I give up. I can't do this anymore. We've been going on for 15 years of this same thing. I just don't understand your words sometimes. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I want so badly to hear you and understand you, but I just don't understand your words.
Mhm.
Can you try and do me a favor? Can you speak to me without using words? And from the midst of her rage, she got this big smile on her face. And I said, oh, I wonder what's going to happen now. And she looked at me and she said, I am daddy.
Mhm.
And I said, what the heck are you talking about? How have you been doing that? And she put her finger to the side of her head like this. And what I understood from that is she was telepathically putting thoughts into my head because she couldn't use her mouth and because she was developmentally delayed and because her words weren't clear. She was communicating in the way she knew how, which was putting thoughts into my head.
Mhm.
And I had thought that she was doing it, but I didn't even trust myself enough or her enough to know that she could even conceptualize some of the things that she was putting in my head. And when I said to her, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts in my head? She just started to laugh. And our laugh was contagious and uncontrollable, and we couldn't stop. When she would stop, I would keep going. And when she kept going, when I would stop, she would keep going. And we couldn't stop. We went on for about 10 or 15 minutes, which is a long time to just be laughing.
Mhm.
And finally, I looked at her and I said, I understand you now. So when you can't be understood, just let me know you're putting thoughts in my head. From that moment, she never screamed, she never tantrumed, and she's never attacked. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, that's incredible. But I didn't stop there. I said, I wonder if this modality of what she taught me could go into boardrooms, could go into schools, could go into hospitals, could go into prisons, could go into homeless shelters, could go into families, could go into entrepreneurial endeavors. And I started to introduce it into the different places that I spoke of. And I found that every single person did exactly the same thing my daughter does. When they spoke and they did speak and they don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create chaos and havoc. When they create havoc and they don't get heard, they destroy. That could be they blow up a building, they could shoot people in a square, they could ruin a relationship, they could try and ruin the reputation, they could leave something, they could try and hurt another person. And my developmentally delayed daughter taught me the antidote to all of that. The antidote is just to listen. And if you can't understand, find a way to understand. Because if I listen to you and you know that I've heard you, you don't need to yell. You
Mhm.
don't need to tantrum because I've heard you. You don't need to attack me. What do you think of that?
I think that there are a lot of people that feel like people are hearing them but not listening to them. And I think that a lot of people feel misunderstood in this world because of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really think that I try to, anytime that I speak to someone, I mean, it's inevitable, right? There's sometimes where you just can't give someone your full attention for whatever reason. Maybe you have something else going on in your life. But I really try to remind myself, like, hey, this person needs you to like truly listen. Because I do think that when people don't feel listened, like you said, they they take that energy out in whatever way that they have to do that, to feel like, okay, if you're not listening this way, you're going to listen to me if I do X, Y, and Z. That's why you see a lot of celebrities and people going so crazy in the public eye, or doing things that are dangerous because they're trying to get people's attention. I remember
Yeah.
I was in a relationship with someone once, and she suffered with a lot of different things, and she told me, she said, I used to always call her out and I couldn't get a lot of other people to help me help this person get help. And she said, you're the only person that I've ever had in my life that truly listens. And I didn't even have to say, like, you notice things, you listened they're not with just my words, but my body language. And you would listen to things I'm not saying. And so I really try to encourage a lot of, especially young people, that make sure you're really listening to your friends. If they're posting something online that's crazy, then maybe something's really going on. Ask them about it in a kind way. Don't yeah, so I totally agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. I think that's a huge issue in this world, that we're not really truly listening to people. We're just kind of hearing them.
So I want you to help me start a revolution of listening.
Okay.
Okay, because it's what you do. And not but. I want to invite you not here, but in your own space, if you feel to relook at your border discussion that you're having with yourself,
Mhm.
to see why people are harming.
Mhm.
Because what I found in the 65 years that I've been here, that's a few times where your years are.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that I've gotten wiser. It just means I've seen more.
Mhm.
Is that's what we do. We people act in a certain way and we create borders. Those
Mhm.
borders become walls. Those walls close down us to people and close down us to situations. And the listening that's possible, that was once possible when those borders weren't there. And I understand the need for somebody to have a border and not allow somebody to hurt you. I'm
Yeah,
not,
exactly,
all right. I'm not questioning that. There's certain times where that absolutely has to happen. But we live in a world where people have created lots of walls that
yeah.
they
Mhm.
call borders.
Oh, definitely.
They've created them in their own life. We have walls around ourselves that we don't even see ourselves.
Hmm.
And so I would love to have someone as conscious as you are at this beautiful, ripe age that you are, which is a wise 27 years old,
Thank you. Thank you.
start to relook at the way you may start closing down, because in the cycle of life, and I'm not trying to do a Lion King here, but in this cycle of life, it's right around this period of time, right around the time where we turn 30, that we start to say, oh, we're going to close up a little bit.
I it's definitely interesting you're saying this, because I have had conversations with my best friend and other people about that, how I have felt myself, because I've been wronged. And like I said, it's not like I haven't been wronged before and I keep on getting up, but I have definitely been wronged in the last year. That for sure gave me this like jolt of like, okay, you're going to do this again. You can
Yeah.
keep living and you can keep going, but are you going to stay as open and as, smiling and trying to be there for other people? And I'm still choosing to do that, but I would be lying to you if I said it hasn't crossed my mind before. And I even said to my best friend, like, man, now I know why people that are older sometimes can be a little bit, grouchy, or like people joke about that. Cause I'm like, I'm only 27 and I've been through so much. I don't know what's going to happen when I get to 70 or 80. My grandparents are, a set of my grandparents are still alive. I'm very blessed, at 88 and 86. And
Wow.
I always talk with my grandmother's, who is a huge inspiration to me. And she's someone that she gave me this advice to find the joy in every single task that you do, no matter how simple it is. So she says, if I do the laundry, I'm having fun doing the laundry. I'm blessed to do the laundry. And she said, if you find the simple joy in just doing little things, you will keep yourself, happier. Keep yourself content with life. And so that lesson that she gave me has really kept me focused on, just the everyday little small things that I now find joy in that I never did before she shared that with me. So every
I
time I
love
do
that.
laundry or do dishes, I always think of her and the things that she said to me.
Yeah.
Um, but I totally have felt that even at 27.
Good. What makes you happy?
Oh man, I love
Did you
being.
say a man makes you happy? No. Nah.
No, a lot of things make me happy. I love being around people who are ambitious, who want to change the world, who are positive. That makes me happy, to just be around the energy of other people, because that's a lot of times what keeps me going, is when I meet people who are as he said, as passionate, vulnerable, authentic. Um, I love to be outside when it's warm out. And like, that's why I moved from New Jersey. I cannot stand the snow. So the sun really makes me happy. I love a good book. Like I'm constantly reading. I'm trying to think of, there's so many things though. The being at the beach. I love the beach, being in the mountains. I love at my mom's place. I have 3 pets. I love being around them. Um, and so those are some of the things
Love
that
it.
make me happy.
Let's go to a lightning round if we can.
Yes,
Are you a dog person or a cat person?
definitely a cat person, but I do love dogs too. It's just my first pet was a cat, and so I feel like I she won me over.
Beautiful. Coffee or tea?
Tea, definitely.
Do you think that you're a person that's in the box or out of the box?
Definitely out of the box. Don't even see the box. In my view, definitely out of the box.
I, lo- I love that. Um, in a world that we live in right now, both of these are important, but I want you to pick which one's most important for you, not right here in this room, but right now in these weeks, months, days of your life. Is it more important for you to find a platform where you can speak your voice and be heard? Or is it more important for you to create a platform where you can listen to other people speak their voice and give them a chance to speak their voice and be heard?
Definitely think having my own platform. I know that might come across as, I don't know, vain or selfish, but
No,
for
not at all.
me, I just have felt like I'm just at a point in my life where I have a lot to share. And I feel as though not that I've stayed super quiet over the last, however many years, but I stayed quiet through a lot of my childhood and certain periods of my life where I felt like I'm kind of like making up for that and trying to really, I just feel as though I'm in a place where I really need and continue to share my voice.
Love it. Lobbing that over the net as you have, and I'll give you another chance to say more.
Mhm.
But given the platform to speak, what is it you'd like to say to people?
So I have 2 tattoos, which I always say is my message kind of to the world. And I didn't even realize I got them both different times and didn't even think that you can read them kind of across. So I have Your Story Matters here. Then I have In God's Light here. And I always want people to know that their story matters. It doesn't matter if it is this like adventurous story, or if it's really simple and you lived in the same place your entire life. I really believe everyone's story matters. And then kind of my second message is that your story matters and what you've been through. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter to anyone else, as long as to me, in God's light or the universe knows that your truth is your truth.
Right.
Because so many people will try to diminish what you went through, or try to lie to save maybe their own reputation or something. But you have to remind yourself that at the end of your life, what happened to you, it doesn't make it any less true or false just because of what someone else said. So those are kind of my 2 messages.
Love it. My mission now has been to create a revolution of listening that get people to try now to listen to each other a little bit more and to hear people. And I was on a podcast and someone said something really insightful to me. He said, because you have this mission, did you feel listened to as a child?
Mm,
And I did feel listened to as a child, except my parents passed away too soon.
mm,
And then when my parents passed away, then I didn't feel that even though people listened to me and heard me, they had no capacity to understand. My friends didn't have any capacity to understand what it was like not to have my parents. And so they couldn't understand it. And so I didn't feel heard in the deepest sense of the word.
mhm.
The fact that your story, everybody's story matters to you. Was there a time where you felt your story didn't matter?
To myself, I've always felt as though my story mattered. I've always said that I never had my own self-esteem or self-worth issues. But when you hear, of course, other people saying things, that's where it kind of breaks it down. but I've always felt my own story matters. Do I feel as though it always mattered to other people? Maybe not.
Did people tell you your story mattered or didn't matter? Like, did when you were telling your story, did people say stop thinking about yourself so much, or your story doesn't matter that much? Like,
Definitely at different parts of my life, yes. Or people think like you're dramatic, or like, do you really have to share this publicly, or do you really have to share this so much? Or people think that you just want to hear yourself speak. I mean, I've heard so many different things said to me, and that's why I really got that tattoo. And God's like
love
to
it.
remind myself that it doesn't matter what other people think, as long as you and God know what your intentions are.
And I don't want you to think that I'm not listening to you, but I talk to so many people. I just want to make place. You said when you first started that the things that happened to us as a child influence what's going on. Is that correct?
Yes,
I
definitely.
wanted to make sure that was you and not somebody
Hmm.
else. So,
Yes.
so, so it would make sense that if people have told you over this time that you're too dramatic, your story doesn't matter, that you would make a platform for yourself to be able to say the opposite to people.
Hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, 100%.
I love that. Um, Back to the lightning round, which I'm terrible at keeping. You see, right? Do you feel like you fit into the world, or do you feel like you're different?
I definitely feel as though I'm different. I think it has really affected so many different areas of my life. It's definitely dating, having friends. I definitely feel as though I view the world and how I just act and who I am is very different compared to other people a lot of the time.
And
So
so, when you say with friends or dating, is it hard for you to find people that accept your difference or that you want to be with because they're not like you? What is that? How does that play out?
I think it's a combination of both. I have, like I said, I kind of live in this sometimes. I feel as though like la la lands. Like, why can't we just all like, if you do something wrong, why can't you just apologize and let's move on and let's like just if I screw up or you screw up, that's okay. Like, let's just move on. And people don't see it that way. Or let's both try to be our best selves. And people want to, do whatever. And for me, I try to be, like I said, really authentic in the sense that, like, so many people have told me over the course of my life, you need to wear more makeup. You need to do your hair differently. You need to dress more professional. And I won't do any of those things. Like if I really just want to wear sweats and go to an interview because that's what is going to make me say the most authentic whatever thing, I'm going to do that.
I
But
love that.
people care more about social media and what people think about them, and is definitely, like I said, affected relationships and finding good friends and things like that.
I want to honor that place in you and tell you how much I appreciate that in you because I feel like I've been different my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
and it isolated me, and I felt different and I felt alone a lot of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
that even though I could play the game of being in the world and people thought, oh, you're popular and you're fun and you're good,
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like I was connected to it. And so I felt a little bit estranged. But it all changed at a certain point where corporations started to say, we're tired of seeing the world the way we always see it. We need people to see the world differently to help us innovate. And
Mm-hmm.
I would, and they would call on me to come into some of the best boardrooms in the country. And I would show up in those boardrooms, and I would show up in a t-shirt and jeans, and the people were in three-piece suits, and women were in suits.
Mm-hmm.
And I would walk into the room and they said, can we help you? And I said, yeah, if you want to. I mean, what would you like to do to help me? And they said, well, are you lost? Are you what do you need to find your way? I said, no, I think I'm supposed to be right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they said, well, we're confused. Are you collecting garbage? What are you doing? I said, I think I'm supposed to lead you in an innovation workshop. And they said, no, you're kidding. I said, oh, so did you want me to innovate by being exactly like you? Is that what you were thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just show you or work with you right now and say, how do you think you're doing in the innovation workshop that's already started without you realizing it started right now?
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing in the ability to see past what people look like to
Mm-hmm.
understand who people are?
Mm-hmm.
How are you looking past what you see all the time in your work to find new solutions if you can't even see that the guy who walked into the room when the workshop was supposed to start could be the guy on an innovation platform that you're doing.
Yes.
And the world changed at that point for them, for me, for everybody, because we started to look and say, okay, you don't have to look a certain way, be a certain way. In fact, it's your differences, like in a mosaic, it's your differences that makes the mosaic beautiful.
Hmm.
Do you think you operate from your head more or your heart more?
I would say at work, like when it comes to work, I think more of my head, but I think everywhere else it's more of my heart. I think when I'm employed by someone else, I try to think very logically on like what is it, but I think everywhere else it's very heart related.
Is that confusing for you sometimes?
Definitely, and definitely I think some people when I'm in a work zone see me very differently or get a different taste of who I am than outside of that space. It doesn't mean I'm any like different, but I try to I don't know, it just depends. But I definitely think some people it's not hard for me to switch out of it, but it's hard I think for other people when they know me at work and know me outside, or only know me in one and then see me in the other to kind of be like, wait, like wait, is this Mallory kind of situation? But it is what it is.
So, who taught you the story that you couldn't be who you are out of work at work?
I don't think it's that anyone taught me that. I think I just find that when I'm working, like I try to think very logically on like what is the best thing to do right now that makes logical sense. But outside of that, I think when I like do my schedule, I don't always think of my head of course of like, okay, I have, whatever, however many days, am I really logically going to be able to handle 10 really emotional, deep conversations? The
Right.
answer is probably no, because I'm going to be too emotional all day or too deep. But I do sometimes that anyway. But when it comes to someone else employing me and paying me, I don't know. I do think that for me, it's just, I think very logically. I don't think I make the wrong decisions either or way. I don't think that, I don't know. I just think that that's how if I really analyze myself, that's how I've shown up differently.
So, just because I'm an old fat guy in California who um, maybe has had a nice time with you, I would like to invite you to Mosaic yourself.
Okay.
I would like to invite you to take a look at what it would look like if you were you in every situation, just like you are you in any situation.
Hmm.
And what that being would look like if you put the pieces of you together and then isolate them out and choose one or the other. Doesn't mean you should do it. I just would like to invite you to sit with that a little bit and see what that might look like.
Definitely.
Would you say you're a leader or a follower?
Definitely a leader. I'm not a follower. And that's why sometimes at work gets me in trouble because I am for sure a leader. Um,
So, in the world that we live in, and I'm just going to use a political example, not because I believe one way or another, and I really don't care which way you believe either, but it's the easiest example to use. I could use a medical example. I could use alternative healthcare versus regular healthcare. I could use women's rights as an issue. It doesn't matter where I go. I could use education. I could use food and how we relate to food. I could use environment. But let's go political because it's so controversial right now.
Mhm.
In the political arena, at least the way I understand it, is we elect our leaders
Mhm.
and we elect people to lead us into a world that we hope will be a better world than the world we're living in. And yet, what I see, it doesn't matter which party you're a part of. People don't really lead within their party; they lead through their party. Like if the party decides to do this, like if you're a pro-Trumper,
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of space for you to be an anti-Trumper or to say
Mhm.
he did this great, but he didn't do this very well.
Mhm.
And so there's no a leader in my mind might stand up and say, I'm 100% behind us in the way we're doing this, but I don't believe this is the right way to pursue that.
Hmm.
I don't see that. On the other side, in the Democratic anti-Trump place, they don't give the dog a bone.
Mm-mm.
Like he doesn't have a chance. He comes around any turn and he's hit by a wooden plank. They swing it at him and knock him down. There's not one thing that he's done that in their mind is good, and every time he does anything, they beat him up for it. And nobody within that party says, "Hold on, he's done some really good things. He's just also done some not so good things." So, what would happen if we were able to say, give the dog a bone for what he's done good, and then like let's try and work on what isn't happening. But as soon as you tell somebody you're not doing anything good, they're going to say, no, look at all the good I've done.
Hmm.
That doesn't feel like leadership to me.
I don't believe at all in cancel culture. I think that's a really hot term right now. And I'm really against that in that way. Because I think that um, when you attack someone and you basically tell someone you're not good or anything and you're not a good person and you are nothing, that person is either going to fight back basically, or they're going to say, wow, I can't win you over at all, so I'm just going to act the way that you want me to act, because that's how I believe human nature is. If you keep telling someone something over and over again, they're going to end up believing it,
Yeah.
and enacting that way. And so I think that first. The
So
second,
do you see that from one side or from both sides?
no, I'm registered independent, and I do that because I really do not like how polarized too that you have to
Right.
become if you want to be part of a party right now.
Okay.
And yeah.
So let me take it a step further because I so appreciate your honesty and your statement on that. I was having a conversation in this same room with somebody else just a few days ago, and I saw something I never saw before. When I asked that same question, suddenly I realized I'm not sure how much I have this strength in my own life to go against some of the momentum of my own limiting beliefs. Some of the things that I know I'm doing wrong, I don't know that I have the strength of character or the strength of leadership. And I believe I'm a leader. Like I'm very clear on what I believe, and I stand on a platform and say it. But in my own life, I'm not sure that I have the ability to stand up to myself
Mm-hmm.
and say, Danny, these things you're doing great, but like this, you're not doing good at all. Like stand up and change that. And some of them I do, but some of the ones that are most important, I don't look at. I gloss over, and I do exactly what I believe our leaders are doing that I elect.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happened is we are electing the people that we are because they resonate with who we are. We don't have the courage to lead ourselves. They don't have the courage to lead against themselves, against the party. And so we're in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you even follow that train of thought? What do you think about that train of thought?
I I would say that I like definitely somewhat agree with what you're saying, but I think also sometimes we don't always elect who we want to elect. Like, to be honest, I don't really like Trump or Biden.
Yeah.
I don't think either of them are amazing candidates, but you have to pick one, or you can write in, or you can do whatever you want. And I think sometimes you don't always get to elect the leaders that you want because you're only, unfortunately, one person out of the entire country that gets to decide. So
Right.
when I say that I'm electing Biden or Trump or whoever because I think that they're like me or that they operate, not really, but do I think that we are all connected because we all struggle with the same exact things? Absolutely. I will
Short
say
answer.
outwardly, I'm not a Trump supporter, but do I think that he's unfairly judged? Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
I can say that. Like you said, I'm someone that, listen, I don't agree with most of the stuff he does, but some of the stuff, you have to give him credit for something. Or if he says something
Totally.
off color, but you know that that's not truly what he means, don't make it a bigger deal. And I don't like when people do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I like your insight. Do you think people are more different than they are alike, or more similar than they are different?
way more similar than they are different. I think
Yeah,
a lot of people, when you have these types of conversations, you realize how much more the same we all are. But again, a lot of people have masks on.
yeah,
So they are different, but not really at the core. What you were saying about earlier, how everyone just wants to be loved and validated and heard. I really believe that that is true for everyone.
yeah,
Everyone wants their family to do well. Everyone wants to be safe. Even when you look at both the parties,
yeah.
what their outcomes they really want are the same. They just see it as getting to that outcome as different ways of getting there. Um,
I love that, because can you imagine if the Democratic Party, which I probably agree with more than than the Trump people, but it's neither here nor there. That's not important.
mhm.
But can you imagine if the Democratic Party would look to Trump and say, "Listen, we may not agree with you on everything, but we want you to know we love and accept you. We think what you're trying to do is we understand what you're trying to do. We want you to acknowledge and validate you for doing the best that you possibly could. We want you to know we listen to you and we hear what you're saying. In the end of the day, we may not agree with it and you may not agree with us, but we believe if you could listen, if we could listen and hear each other and accept and acknowledge each other, we might find together a solution that we could come together." I believe the resistance between parties would diminish almost instantly.
And what I'm going to go a step further with that is
Please.
take it into out of politics for a second. So this is where I say that I live in la la land because
Yeah.
that's how I operate. With a lot of my best friend always tells me and people in my life how short long making a long story very short. My best friend and I didn't speak for 3 years.
Wow.
She literally just walked away one day and was like, "You're a bad friend." I did not do anything. And she came back 3 years later and said, she basically explained what happened. She said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Let's get on a FaceTime." And I told all my friends this, and they're like, "Why would you do this? She hurt you so bad." We got on FaceTime. She explained herself. I said, "Great. You're sorry. I've missed you. Let's be friends again." Why would I? If you're
Totally.
sorry, you really mean it. But so many people, they give people that benefit of the doubt. They say, "I love you. Even if you've hurt me, I forgive you." But that other person is like, takes that kindness and then says, "See, I'm not the problem. You love me, you blah, 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 blah." And then it doesn't work. And what I see is in my life, I've done that a lot is I've shown kindness, I've shown love, and then backwards it's used against me because I will say sorry first, or I will show love, and that person is not, I think, on the same level of understanding and wanting to show love back, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And that's why and the reason I'm saying this is I think it's the root of why people don't do it more. They
So I
don't.
want to come back. I want to come back again because I really hear you and I really understand it, and I really think it's an insightful thing you're saying, and I really think that is true what you're saying. And I don't mean this as a judgment. If it comes across as a judgment, please just know I don't know how to say it well enough, because
That's
it's not
okay.
at all a judgment. Okay. For me, that sounds like conditional love. What's happening for me in this room is when I completely give up the desire to have anybody believe what I believe, but I just want to hold the space for them to be able to share with me what they believe. And if I say something to them and they take advantage of it, what I say to them is, please tell me more. Like
Mm-hmm.
tell like I'm going to hold this receptacle for you. It's the trash man in my book, The Mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel I'm hurting you, or you feel hurt by something, pour it all in here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm holding the space for you. I want to hear everything you believe. I want you to tell me every single way I've hurt you, because I want you to know I'm listening to you. I want you to know I'm hearing you. I'm not taking it inside myself. I'm holding it in this receptacle, because here's my dream. Here's the only thing I want for you. I want for you to be able to have a moment where you experience yourself without all this pain that you've just put in this receptacle. It's here for you. You can take it back whenever you want. But when you empty yourself of all that, I want you to take a look at yourself and ask yourself, how do I feel now? Like when you get rid of all the suffering, all that pain, that's what the trash man does in my book. And if you look at the trash man, he comes every week to your neighborhood. He takes all the stuff that you don't want anymore. Well, we can do that on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on an intellectual level with everybody. And we can just say, pour it all in here. And I'm listening to you.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to change your point of view. If they say to me, Danny, you're the reason why I do it, I say, really, tell me more. I don't try and rationalize it. I don't try and defend it. I don't try and say, no, that can't be true, because that's not the time for me to do that.
Mhm.
It's the time for me to just say, empty yourself of it all,
Mhm.
put it here, and tell me how you feel. And what I see is amazing transformations happen. I don't do it for the transformation because then it would be manipulative,
Yeah, yeah.
but I do it just because of the joy of what I know will happen when people free themselves from that pain.
Mhm.
The trash can's there. I leave it for them. I don't have to put it in the trash truck. If they want me to help them put it in the trash truck, I'll put it in the trash truck. We'll grind it up and we'll drive it away. But if they want to keep it outside their house for the rest of time, I'll let them have it because they can go back and get anything they want. Truth is, they can recreate it whenever they want, even if they throw it away.
Mhm.
But the trash man will come next week too.
Mhm.
Your thoughts?
What you are describing is so much of what I believe in, and why, if you were to ask me why I have any of my successes, I've had a lot of failure, but specifically my successes with the relationships in my life or jobs or really anything, I find that the reason why people like either working with me or being friends with me is because I allow them to share whatever they have on their heart in a safe space where they can unleash whatever garbage they have. And
Because every story matters,
exactly. And I've
and
had,
in God's light, it all changes.
yeah, and I've heard some really terrible things from people, or people feel a lot
I'm
of
sure.
shame and guilt. And that's something that I really believe is another huge topic of shame and guilt, and how people hold a lot of shame and guilt in them. And I try to get people to release that shame and guilt and give it to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is in a lot of people's garbage.
So what drains you is the fact that you're asking them to give it to you. What I'm suggesting to you is don't take it into yourself. Put it in this receptacle that you can hold. It's the trash can,
Mm-hmm.
so that it doesn't come into you. I did that for a long time and I got drained too.
Yes.
It doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. So put it in this receptacle so that they can be free of it, but you don't have to take it. Does that
Mm,
make sense?
yes. Yes. No, I totally am hearing you now.
And so what I want you to know is you don't live in la la land,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't need to put up these walls around pain. You can just let people be who they are,
Mm-hmm.
empty themselves into that thing. And if that fits for you, what a fabulous moment this will be. And if it doesn't fit for you, what an even more fabulous moment, because you'll find you'll have a definition of something that hasn't worked or isn't working or doesn't feel real. We got to close down because we got life to live outside of here. Let me just ask you two more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the world, with all the problems that it's going through, is trying to tell us something?
I definitely think it's trying to tell us right now to slow down and really get to know who you are on a really deep level, and where do you want to go? What is really priority to you?
Okay.
And I just think it's causing a lot of people to self-reflect right now. That's, I think, the world wants.
Yeah, I love that. Being an ex monk of 10 years, I always say, well, if society is telling us we can't go outside, it's sort of indicating to us to go inside, right?
Yes.
So
And
why not go
for a
with
lot of
it,
people.
right?
Hmm.
Um, you have 1 minute out of all the beautiful things you've said, out of all the wisdom that you have. What's one thing you want to say to the world that might help people who are listening
I,
shift from the momentum of where the world's going to a new place?
I want to say that Your story matters. You are not alone. And as soon as you figure out really who you are and where you want to be, you're just one conversation, one action away from truly achieving that, and to keep going, because you have everything within you that you already need to get to where you want to be.
Beautiful. Mallory, how do people, if people are as intoxicated with you as I am, how do they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Mallory Rothstein. You can find me on Instagram at I Learn with Mal. Find me on Facebook. Twitter is the same as I Learn with Mal. I'm working on a website, so that will be launched soon. But just find me on social media, or you can email me at ilearnwithmal@gmail.com.
Okay, so you're going to send me all those links, right?
Yes,
So people don't have to worry about writing them down real quickly and
yes,
going back. Okay,
of course.
those will be in the show notes. I want to thank you so much for all of your time and for all of who you are. What an honor to have you in this room and to have you come in as a stranger. And I feel like what a beautiful friend I have now walking forward.
Yes,
Um,
thank
I'm
you
so,
so much.
you're
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
I really appreciate you. I definitely want to look more into the work that you've done, and hopefully, I would say this is the start of hopefully a beautiful friendship to come.
It won't be, hopefully, it is. We won't have it any other way. For those of you who are listening to this show, if you like it, please share it with your friends. If you don't want to share it, that's quite okay too. Um, but the way something grows, and if you like it, maybe some of your friends will like it. If you know people who want to have a conversation, please have them get in touch with me. I love having conversations with people that I don't know. I love having conversations with people I do know too. So some of my friends have called me up and said, hold it. Can I have a conversation with you? Because we haven't talked in a long time. I'm not a stranger. I said, yeah, we can make the rules however we want. Right. But I like having conversations with strangers too.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for listening. Thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you for giving us the most valuable, precious commodity, which is your time. And what I'd like to ask you to do is take a chance and break through something that you've never done before. Find somebody that you've never would talk to and go up to them, either on social media or in real life, and just ask them how they're doing. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to help them. You don't need to change them. You don't need to make suggestions to them. Just listen to them and see what happens. Stranger things have happened
Mm-hmm.
than having strangers come together and become close, close friends.
Mm-hmm.
I feel what's happened in this room is people have walked in as strangers and have walked out as family.
Mm-hmm.
Try it. Who knows? In an isolated world where we feel very isolated, sometimes all it takes is us reaching out,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have more people than we could ever imagine that want to speak with us. Reach out. Don't be a stranger. Until next episode, thank you so much for your time. Mallory, is there anything you want to say to close?
No, but again, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for those who choose to listen.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Until next time, don't be a stranger. Take care.